Hello everyone, I hope you're having a good week and enjoying the sunshine a little bit. We're going to carry on with our second set work this week, so make sure you've got a pen and something to write on, and let's get started. So pause the video now and do these questions for the do now. Let's go through the answers together. So, who wrote Eine, Kleine, Nachtmusik? Well, there was a little bit of a clue on the previous slide. It is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, who was born in 1756. The type of ensemble that this piece is written for is a string quartet, violin 1, violin 2, viola and a cello. The form and structure of the piece is minuet and trio that we looked at last lesson. And the era was the classical era. These signs here indicate to repeat the music that's in between them. So purple pen your answers there. In today's lesson, we're going to listen to Eine Kleine again and identify the piece's tonality and its tempo. So on your paper, I'd like you to have a look at these key signatures on the left here, pause the video and use this keyboard to help you work out the major key that these key signatures represent, and then work out the relative minor. Let me remind you quickly of how to do those things. So for the major key, for the sharps, you find the last sharp, what note it's on, and go up one note to find your key. And for the flats, you find the penultimate flat, which is the flat before the last one, to find your key. Now, once you've got your major key, you can write it here or on your paper. And to find the minor key, you need to go down 3 notes. So I'll give you an example. Let's say I found G major was my major key. To find the minor key, I go 1, 2, 3. So the minor key would be E minor, and that's the minor key that has the same sharps or flats as your major key. So G major would be E minor, F major would be D minor, etc. So you go down 3 notes. So pause the video now and have a go at this exercise. And let's have a look at the answers together. So for this first one, this is a bit of a trick question because there's no sharps or flats. So how are you meant to work out the key signature? Well, hopefully you've learnt by now that this key signature is C major. It's just one that you have to learn. You can't work it out at all. If there's no sharps or flats, it's C major. Let's go to our keyboard and work out the relative minor. 1, 2, 3 notes down is A minor. Next key signature, again, I've been a bit cheeky. This is another trick question because again, look, you can't go to a penultimate flat because there isn't a flat before this one. So again, this is another key signature that you just have to learn, and it is F major. Let's find our relative minor. 1, 2, 3 notes down is D minor. Okay, number 3, finally one that we can use the key signature for. Our last sharp is on this space here, so for F bass in the space, F, A, C, it's a C sharp, and one note up from C sharp is D. So I know that that's D major. Let's find our relative minor. 1, 2, 3 is B minor. And lastly, let's find the penultimate flat in this key signature. Not this one, but this one, which is on this line. Every good boy. So that's a B flat. Let's go down from B flat 3 notes. 1, 2, 3 is G minor. So purple pen your answers there, because this is going to come in useful in our next activity. So now that we know how to work out tonality in any key signature, let's look back at the piece that we've been working on. Pause the video really quickly and work out this key signature in 10 seconds. Okay, so having done those key signatures on the slide before, this should be really easy. We find our sharp, we go up 1 note from this sharp, so let's work out what this sharp is on. Every good boy deserves football. That's an F sharp, so up 1 note from F sharp, A, B, C, D, E, F, G is G, so we know we're in G major, and this is going to be what's called our tonic because it's our home key. So I'd like you to go to the booklet that I have linked in today's Show My Homework lesson, which is called Mozart, and it's a PDF, and read the first 4 pages, which is about this piece's tonality. Off you go. Now that you've read about the piece's tonality, I'd like you to copy and complete this table in your notes, and you'll recognise the format because we've done this a few times before. And this will be really useful to have in your notes to refer to when we're looking at the harmony and the tonality in this piece. So pause the video and complete this with the root, the third, and the fifth. Okay, I'll show you the answers now so you can just check that you've got all of those. It's really important that you remember the F sharp because that's going to always be the case in G major, isn't it? Because that's one of in our key signature. And I'd just like to highlight to you the most important chords that we've talked about in the past, these three here, which you'll notice are the uppercase ones, which means they're major chords, and you'll remember that they're called primary chords, the most important, the primary ones. And then all of the rest here are called the secondary chords, and you'll remember this from last half term. So, I'd like you to pause the video and either using the textbook or using what you know from other from our lessons in the past, which of the chords in the table that you just wrote is the tonic, dominant, subdominant, and the relative minor. And you might like to use the trick of counting down 3 notes on this keyboard to work out the relative minor. Off you go. Okay, I'm going to go through the answers now. So, of course, we know that the tonic is the home key, so it's the first note in our scale, which of course is chord 1, and that's G major in this instance. The chord that is the dominant is chord 5, and in this instance that's D major in your table. G, A, B, C, D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5 notes up. Which of the chords is the subdominant? G, A, B, C. It's C major, which is chord 4. And which of the chords is the relative minor? Let's count together. If the tonic or the home key is G, to find the relative minor we go down 3 notes. 1, 2, 3. So it's E minor, which is chord 6 in our table. Mark those answers there. And we're going to move on now to meter. And we know that meter is to do with how many beats are in a bar and the time signatures. So we did this when we did, at the beginning of the year, we looked at these a lot. So I'd like you to pause the video now and see if you can remember which of these words in this box goes with these time signatures here. And I've given you the time signature, how many beats would be in a bar, and how those beats would be divided. So pause the video and off you go in your book, on your paper there. Okay, let's go through the answers now. So let's just remember what it means to be a simple time and what it means to be compound time. What's the difference? Well, I'll tell you now. Simple time is when the main beats are divided into twos. It's very simple. Okay, so if we're going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, they're divided into twos. In contrast to that, a compound time is when the main beats have dots on them because they're divided into threes. So in this time signature, it goes 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I almost couldn't click that fast, but you can get the idea. It's 3 beats per 3 divisions per beat. So let's have a look at the answers then. That means that this is obviously simple time because it's divided into 2, and there are 2 beats per bar. This one, there's still 2 beats, so it's still going to be duple, but this time there are 3 subdivisions, so it's called compound time. 3 beats per bar, so it's going to be triple, but they're only divided into 2, so it's simple. 3 beats per bar, so again it's triple, but they're divided into 3, so it's compound. You get the idea. 4 beats per bar, quadruple. 4 beats per bar, quadruple. Mark your answers there, and if you think it would be helpful to have in your notes, then write the key signatures next to your answers, because that'll help you when you look back at these notes. So I'd like you to go and listen to the minuet and trio that we've been studying. The link is in the description below. And you might like to use these conducting patterns that we learnt in previous lessons to help you. So while you're listening, with your hand, go 1, 2, 1, 2, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we did this with Killer Queen, and you really easily found that it was in 4. So this time I'd like you to work out, is it in 2, is it in 3, or is it in 4? Pause this video and off you go. Okay, so hopefully you've had a chance to do that now, and I am going to play the piece of music now, and try and do it myself. So you might have heard me just then trying to fit in 2 and it didn't really work, and then I tried to fit in 3 beats per bar and it works really well. So I think this is in 3/4. Let's have a look at the score and see if I'm right. So I'm having a look at the time signatures just there, and oh yeah, there's 3 beats in a bar and it's 3 crotchets. Let's check in the score if that's true. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, and here's a minim. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So it's 3 crotchets per bar. They're not dotted crotchets, so that means it's simple triple time. I'd like us to make a note of this in our score. So you can all do this in your scores as well. We're going to label the time signature there, simple triple time. So make sure you've labelled that in your score, because you've got 3 crotchets per bar. So there's one more thing that I want to talk about in terms of meter, and that's to do with the beginning here. Why is it that every single bar has 3 crotchets per bar? Especially, it's really clear if you look at the cello part. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, etc. But what's this doing at the beginning? Who can you remember what this is called from when we did Killer Queen? Because it was this exact same thing when we were conducting. It went, she keeps a moe e Shandon, and moe was the beginning of the bar, but she keeps a had a name, and that name was an upbeat. So this is a beat that happens on the up of your conducting. So when your hand goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, when my cursor is going up there, that's the upbeat. So it's like an extra beat that's added on before the beginning of a phrase, and this is called an upbeat, or a bit of a more fancy name is anacrusis. So here we've got an anacrusis at the beginning of the phrase. And let's go and look at my music. I think there's actually an anacrusis at the beginning of every phrase. Look here, there's 1 note before the beginning of the phrase. And here in the trio, there's 1 crotchet's worth, 2 quavers, before the beginning of the phrase. And again, 1 crotchet before the beginning of the phrase. So every single phrase in this piece has an upbeat or an anacrusis, and that's a really important feature that we need to remember. So that brings us to the end of today's lesson. I'd like you to go back to the quiz on Show My Homework and complete those questions there. And remember to keep going with your compositions on GarageBand, BandLab, Noteflight, whatever you're using, and send me a little bit of what you've been working on every week. And I look forward to speaking to you soon.